Shinnecock people to sing the song because it came from these stars.
I'm a Shinnecock Montauk, and you know a lot of things to be true, and one of those things is that we honor our dead as well as our living, and we wouldn't want anything to happen to burial sites. To have people here today that are knowledgeable about burial sites, archaeological, the important sites here on Long Island, where Shinnecock Montauk people have been here for thousands and thousands of years. And we're here to get here today as proof of that we're still here. And that we want people to know that and to respect what is ours.
He discovered that he was lost. And he fell upon some people who were, like they say Indian means in the God. So he fell upon some people that showed him,
Can you give us your opinion on what's going on here today?
Well, it's a memorial service in memory of Cyrus Shaw, a very important Montauk Indian who's buried here.
And about the plans about putting a road through this area?
The plan is, this is a discontinued road, and a man bought a lot over there with no access to it, and they're trying to cut a 10-foot road here, which will go right near the Indian burial ground, which is prohibited by state law.
Black blood in me, and I feel that, you know, that's an honor to be a mixture of all different types of people, and I don't think it adds or take away from who I am or what I am. And as far as what Indians are and the type of blood or quarter blood or half blood or whatever, I don't think that by the white man's standards you can dictate who is an Indian, who's not an Indian. I think it has to do with how long a person or a people has maintained their heritage and their culture, and that's what makes you or constitutes you as an Indian. Because we have a culture which is orally passed down, and it has been maintained throughout the history of time up until this point, and that's what makes me who I am. Because my grandparents taught me who I was, and I teach my children who they are, and it goes on and on and on. And nobody can take that from me.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to say it's a great honor to be asked to speak at this occasion. Especially on a day like Memorial Day, I think it's so appropriate that we honor the memory of our descendants who we believe, as most people we hope believe, you know, they never die. They go to another world. So that's why it's very important for us to take responsibility for what we can do to at least try to preserve their memory. I also think that it's a terrible disgrace that we have to fight for our rights continually, particularly since we have a 7,000-year history on Long Island, from Paleolithic times onwards. And how we have to continually, deal with this so-called double standard that exists when it comes to remains.
How did you feel about American history?
Well, I'll tell you, I hated history. I hated history because I always felt that it wasn't correct. I always felt that they always made the Indians look like the bad guy. You know, it was just like their TV stereotypes. You know, they made the Indians look like heathens. And I know the way I was raised, we were raised with a lot of love. We were raised with, with a culture. We were raised with respect. And the way they made the Indians appear to be, and you know, it's funny and ironic now because when you look at it today, you see that everybody looks to the Indian and the Indian's way of life. They were very peaceable and they lived in harmony with, the world. But I had a problem growing up because people never could figure out what I was. They always thought I was either Puerto Rican or a mulatto or anything but an Indian, because you have this stereotypical idea of what an Indian is. And so they expect you to be with this long flowing hair and, just a basic idea of what they see, the way that the world depicts Indians as. And when you tell them, well, I'm Shinnecock, well, what's that? So people don't really know what Indians, and that there are different types of Indians and they don't all look the same.
If you walk around the reservation, you'll see folks dressed as people everywhere dress. Jeans, slacks, shoes. The housing is the same. The cars we drive are the same. The one thing that would identify someone as a Shinnecock is not so much the outer appearance, but the inner attitude and how one perceives the world around him or her. And that's not something that's readily visible to the outside eye. And I think that that's a struggle that we here in this community go through. Do I have to look like an Indian in order to be one? And I say unequivocally no.
In the 18th century, Cyrus Charles was a fighter for the rights of the Montauk. He carried a petition to at that time, the state governor, the colonial governor, Governor Colden, and protested against the actions that were being taken by the settlers in East Hampton against the Montauk. This again is in the 18th century. He protested the actions taken by the East Hampton settlers to squeeze out the Montauk. They were continually passing rules and regulations, restricting the places where they could live, restricting their access to vital fuels for their fires, restricting places where they could have their crops planted. All of this, and restricting who they could marry, restricting all of their activities, preventing them from marrying Native Americans from New England because they wanted the Montauk to die out.
We were an organized community prior to the formation of the United States. And New York was basically a state, a colony, which exercised a certain amount of jurisdiction over the people who lived within its state boundaries. And one such community were the Shinnecocks. And so a lot of the formal agreements that were established government to government were done between the state of New York and the Indian communities within the state of New York.
But I believe Indians were always people who kept to themselves, and they didn't really make big issues about who they were and what they were all about, which is what I believe the reason why they still are in existence today. Like, they haven't totally assimilated to what United States calls the melting pot of America. They still maintain their heritage and they still maintain their culture, and the ones who didn't, they no longer have their own land and run their own shit, But the ones who were strong and stuck it out and said, I'd rather die than to become a slave to the white man, they still, like our tribe is known as the oldest Indians who still are sovereign.
I want to thank my
Shinnecock Sisters and Brothers for inviting me. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a Quechua Mapuche Indian. We call ourselves Runa, people of stone. Governments have divided us in linguistic stocks, so they're called Quechua. History knows us as Incas. And I am a living proof that we can survive if we try very hard. We have first contact in 1532, and in the first day of contact, 500,000 of our people were slaughtered. But we survived, we remain. And our situation is not just critical like yours, where your grave sites are being turned over to build fancy homes, but the people that build these fancy homes have money to buy what they call pre-Columbian art. And so our graves are being robbed and our history is being destroyed constantly. I relate a lot to the situation in Shinnecock because, like them, most people think we have disappeared. There are no Indians left in South America, but we're 6 million strong. 75% of the population of South America is Indian. And so I work with whatever I can do for my brothers and sisters in Shinnecock.
The men don't want to cause any kind of conflict that might threaten our land getting taken from us. Because throughout the history, land has been taken from us. You know, chiseled here and chiseled there. And the ones that get up and fight are the women. The women get annoyed and they get mad, and then they turn around and they do something. They make a fight and they make a ruckus. But, you know, the way they do it is real sneaky and very slick and very deceitful. I believe they get our men, certain men, involved in the community, the Southampton community, get them involved, put them in key positions so that they can, they think they're the ones in control, and then they kind of like suppress their ideas. Well, today, I don't know, maybe it has to do with Dances with Wolves. That movie has like really put the Indians out there in the forefront, and it's kind of like prick their hearts so that now they feel like, oh, well, see, people been here for years did not know that reservation existed. I think only the rich white people knew, the rich ones that got those big mansions across the water from us, who look at us and they see, you know, pure beauty. We're sitting on the other side of the ocean. And it is the most beautiful piece of land I've ever known.
Grave sites all over the East Coast that's been tampered with. The European way, taking everything they can get, you know. So I'm praying for my people here, the Shinnecocks and the Montauk's, and these children. I just pray that maybe when they get older, this power of the Native people is still here today.
We are ever and forever reminded that we as Indian people will forever be a part of this soil. We know how to talk to the trees. We know how to treat the animals as our brothers. The bean and corn and squash as our sisters. And we know that when we come to this place here, our ancestors are crying for the people who are building, the people who are in charge of the communities, for mankind itself to respect us. Indians are people, we are not savages. We are to be remembered. We are to be recognized. And our spirit and our people are to be respected. We pray that this land will be kept sacred, that no building shall be forevermore on any of our property. There is a site over there by Montauk Lighthouse, which was pointed out to me as a child. Up near Montauk Manor, there was another burial site. My great-great-grandmother owned the property as you come into Montauk down your left-hand side. Very little of that is left today. So we ask you, one and all, to respect what is here today, to help us memorialize this sacred ground. And remember that as Indian people, we showed kindness to the settlers when they came. We hope to show kindness to our people now. Thank you.